This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jhae Pfenning, recording from my home studio in Gilbert, Arizona. Coming up on today's show, we talked to good friend of the show, Nikki Robinson. This was her first time attending SEMA with a vehicle. For those of you car people listening, you know how big of a deal that is. For those of you that are not car people, don't worry about it. We're not going to get overly technical. Also, a little bit of car news. And whether you like it or not, you're going to hear my thoughts on the presidential election and the results and the strategies. Where did the Democratic Party fail? So a few weeks ago, when I'm in Texas, my daughter texts me and says, there's a drone in our backyard. It's just hovering in our backyard for a few minutes, and it's very uncomfortable. I go, okay, well, maybe it belongs to our next door neighbor. They're always buying the kid all sorts of stuff. Maybe it's his. So I send my next door neighbor a message. I go, hey, do you guys happen to own a drone? And she tells me, no, but we've seen one in your backyard. We've also seen one in our backyard. So I tell my wife, because my wife's noticed it too, actually. My wife and my daughter has noticed this drone flying over our house, flying through the neighborhood, stopping in our backyard. And we have a really nice backyard, but it's a little weird. So I immediately started researching, is there an EMP cannon? Is that just science fiction? Is there a cannon that has a net on it? Is it legal to shoot down a drone? Which it is not, because the FAA considers that an aircraft, even if it's a little hobbyist drone with a little camera and it's not delivering packages. It's obviously not doing airstrikes like those big drones the military uses. And research shows that you don't own the airspace over your house. So if someone wanted to, if a creepo wanted to, they could just fly a drone and just stare in your window and you couldn't do anything about it. It's a little creepy, yeah? So I posted, after asking around, I posted on our, not the neighborhood, not the Nextdoor app, but we have a group we have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group for the people in the neighborhood. We've had a lot of drama with the HOA. I'm sure you guys remember that. But apparently other people have seen this or heard this as well. Now, there may not be, there could be more than one drone. We have a giant subdivision, many neighborhoods. But someone sent me a DM and say, I think this is my next door neighbor. They have a pretty fancy drone. And then somebody else posted, I'm pretty sure this is my neighbor, a different person. And so I sent her a map because another neighbor of mine said, it's this house, which is at the end of my street. It's this house. My son followed the drone home one day and said he saw someone remote controlling out of this house. I said, okay. So the other night, my daughter texted me again. She goes, hey, I just heard the drone zip by. So then I ran downstairs, put my shoes on, went out the front door and started walking down the street. And I saw, it was at nighttime, so you can't really see shit. But I saw several people moving around in front of that house. As I got down to the house, and they could see me walking up the street. When I got down to the house, there was no one to be seen. Garage door wide open. There was a truck out front. The back of it was wide open. A couple of motorcycles or little e-bikes. You know the e-bikes with the big fat tires? I think that's what it was. And so instead of being overly suspicious, I didn't stop at their house. I walked past it, and there was only one or two other houses because there's a cul-de-sac at the end of the street. Turned around, walked back to my house, started looking around, or I started walking back to my house. I got about 4 or 5 houses away, and then I saw another person pop out. So then I turned around and started walking toward them again. I said, excuse me. A lot of people are saying they're seeing a drone. Do you know anything about a drone coming from that house? No, I don't know anything about a drone. I said, all right. Obviously, I didn't believe the guy. So I walked around, kept looking. And it was at night. I can't see shit anyway because I've had LASIK, and I just cannot see as crisp at night. Those of you who have LASIK, who have had LASIK, know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm looking at it in the sky, and I'm sending voice notes to my daughter in the backyard. I go, I think I see it. Look up. I see a flashing light. I see a green light. You know, the drone's usually green or they're red. I go, I see a red light. And it just happens at this time. So we live near an airport, very close to an airport. So then all the planes are coming in. So after I walked around the block, I decided that I didn't see the drone at all. I was literally watching airplanes in the sky take off and land from a distance. But it's pretty crazy because, like I said, I researched it. I know the house. It's been confirmed now by 3 people. This is the house. Some person's renting it. And I've gone down there during the daytime. They have 4 or 5 cars in front of their house all the time, just like we do. Different license plates. I don't know what to do because I can't legally shoot it down. I don't even own a gun, but I'm talking maybe a net or some sort of an EMP blast or some sort of an EMP shield. That'd be kind of nice just to kind of put it up, just to think fizzle out as it gets to my house. But I told the lady, next time she sees the kid out, let me know. I have no problem calling the police, calling the Gilbert Police Department, and seeing if they will at least come out and have a word with the kid. And that's that gray area. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about that law that a drone, because I understand if the drone's like 100, 200, 300 feet above your house, but if it's known for creeping out the neighbors, that's a little weird, isn't it? If it could just hover in my beautiful backyard, if it can come down and look in the windows, that's pretty weird. Should be illegal. Should be an invasion of privacy. 14th Amendment. I was reading online. They go, well, if this happens, the best thing to do is just go inside. What? But I was fully committed of walking down and confronting whoever it is, fully aware that this is an open carry state. I could get my head blown off, but I was willing to walk down and confront somebody. I'm not trying to get in a fight, but I do have kind of a certain demeanor and aura to me. I can be a little intimidating without trying to be intimidating. Hey, you, how about you not fly that thing around our neighborhood? People are complaining, and I don't need that drone in my backyard. You're scaring the shit out of my wife and my daughter. And if you hurt my wife and my daughter, then you're coming after me. You're coming after me, we have a problem. Do you understand? I could do that. I don't know. A little harsh. Or, because we don't know. It could be some pervert. It could just be some kid trying to figure out how to fly his little drone. But go fly it over the golf course. We literally live on a golf course. Fly it over the golf course. Don't fly it in our backyard. Now, this word from 4Wheel Online. For over a decade, 4Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any make or model on the road. The truck products cover everything to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. Need a wheel and tire package? Head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitted today. Visit them online at 4Wheel Online. So yesterday in Atlanta, just out somewhere in Georgia, I think Atlanta, Stone Mountain, Georgia, diners at a Stone Mountain restaurant were sent scrambling Saturday after a car drove into the restaurant. So you can look this up and you can watch the video. There's 3 ladies sitting at a table and they get up and they just sprint. Like they are fast. They take off. And then within seconds, a car comes crashing through. Apparently what had happened was the driver said that her brake or her gas or something got stuck. And that makes sense because one of the witnesses said when the car came through, it sounded like they just kept going. They didn't stop. They just kept going. So if the car won't stop and the foot's on the gas and the brakes at the same time, the car's just doing this weird thing. And there's skid marks all inside the restaurant. Not the skid marks that you have in your underwear. But I decided to look into it a little bit more. Earlier this week in Milford, bizarre car versus house versus car crash in Milford, Delaware. A scene unfolded Thursday morning when a car crashed into a house on the West Bulrush Drive in Milford around 11 a.m. I'm looking at a picture of it. The car had come across the front yard in front of the door and hit the side of the garage, an attached garage, so hard, it's exciting, that it damaged both cars in the garage. Imagine that. Not only do you have a car crashing through your house, but it took out both your cars that were otherwise secure in your garage. So I decided to look a little bit further. According to Slate.com, in 2022, a study was performed. There are at least 100 American drivers veering their cars into buildings each day. So 36,500 times a year on the low end, a vehicle slams into a building, slams into a house. More than 2,500 people are killed a year because of this. Super crazy. Some of them they deem are accidental, and some of them they say happens intentionally, like trying to take somebody out. That is bizarre. And that is the car news. So we are joined by our longtime friend, Nikki Robinson. She just got back from SEMA. For those of you who are into cars, you know that SEMA is a big deal. Happens every year, about a week long. I think a big misconception is it's a public event. I don't think that's changed, but we'll find out. I haven't been myself since 2017. So I know this is your first time having your car in SEMA. Is this your first time going to SEMA?
It is not. This is actually my second time. First time was with my husband like 9 years ago.
What was it like? Based on, you had no idea what it would be like, I would imagine, regardless of what people told you. Let's talk through the SEMA crunch. Like, how different was that you may have imagined it would be?
So we got the car back on Thursday before we had to leave on that Saturday.
SEMA crunch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we traveled to Vegas on Saturday. We did trailer the car. Driving that car would have been horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Check-in was on Sunday around 3. We got there a little early, but they immediately brought us in. Optima Batteries was there. They offered a free yellow top battery, and we're like, yeah, heck yeah, right. We'll take it.
That's wild, right? Because that's got to be your first surprise. You're like, holy crap. It's like once you're in there, like people just start throwing stuff at you.
Yeah, exactly. Not only did we get a free battery, but we did get a battery charger from them. And then we ended up staging up. Next thing we know, we're getting escorted over to the other side of the convention center with a police escort, which is kind of cool. And then they parked us. Unfortunately, yes, I say unfortunately, because it feels like we were put into a back lot, like a last minute thought. The blue lot, which is behind Central Hall.
That means to the listeners, you're somewhere that maybe doesn't get as much foot traffic.
Exactly. I know that that's where the Uber and rideshare people get picked up and dropped off. So maybe there was some traffic, but not as much traffic as you would get inside.
Right. So I don't know how much it's changed. I was in the right place at the right time, apparently around the right people when I had my car there, because I know at some point they say that first timers, it's rare that they get parked inside. But I know there's some nicer spots even outside to get plenty of foot traffic. Yep. And so I understand a little bit of disappointment just because you want to show off your cool car and show off your awesome wrap that I saw photos of. So tell us again what vehicle you have.
It's a 2000 Honda Civic with a 1.5 turbo swap, recently wrapped by Vinyl Vixen and Wrap Sesh in Gilbert.
Right. So if you guys listening, if you're following the One Auto's Instagram, sometimes my Instagram, you'll see this really cool Civic that we repost all the time. But we haven't really, I think we only have maybe 1 or 2 pictures from the new wrap. So you guys make sure that you check that out. So what was your week like then? So you get there, you do the roll in, you get staged, you get the escort, which is probably, it sounds super cool. You get the car parked. Yeah. What do you do with the rest of your week?
So Sunday, we just kind of got the car ready, got it wiped down. Monday, the show wasn't exactly open yet, so we didn't exactly check out the convention center. And then the show opened on Tuesday, so that's where we got a lot of our walking in. I think at one point I got 12 miles in one day. That's pretty much what we ended up doing, was just spending a lot of our time checking things out at most of the halls. I think we checked out Central Hall the most, a little bit of West Hall, maybe a little bit of North Hall, and then I just popped into South Hall to say hi to some family that happened to have a booth there.
Did you find that, because the place is huge, we got to paint the picture for the listeners how big, how massive this is. I mean, you just said one day you tracked 12 miles, and that's not leaving the event. That's just constantly going back and forth between these giant exhibits. Do you have any idea how many cars were on display? Possibly vendors. I could probably look that up, but any idea how many cars, approximate foot traffic? Did you hear any of those stats?
I did not. I'm guessing probably at least 1,200 cars, maybe more. I have a feeling it's way more. And then the booths is more than that. I did not look up any of those stats.
It's okay. It's okay. But just from you walking around and seeing, were you able to see all the cars you wanted to see?
Yeah, I did. I was geeking out over the Honda Racing Corporation booth. That Race Ready Integra. Oh my gosh.
Which one of those was that? Is it a big HRC car, or was it the
an
yellow
HRC
car?
The white one.
Did you pick up any auto cannon swag?
No, I totally missed that opportunity.
Oh, I thought about posting it because they were posting it online, and sometimes I repost their stuff and sometimes I don't. But yeah, I know they were giving away exclusive SEMA swag there over at the Auto Cannon, I think Hawk Brakes booth.
Yeah, yep. I did see them post it, and we were on the complete opposite side of the convention center, so I couldn't get back over there in time.
How long do you think it takes to walk across without traffic and then add in SEMA?
Yeah, I would say probably 15 minutes to go from Central Hall to West Hall. If you get the chance, definitely make use of the Vegas Loop. It's the Teslas that go through tunnels, which is really cool.
Oh.
Yes, we definitely did that.
Because that thing wasn't there before. I think they just had that train thing that I rode when I was there in 2017. But yeah, the Tesla Loop. What was that like?
That was really cool. They had it all like lit up, and it was one-way traffic for the Teslas. So we even hopped onto it from Resorts World because they have a stop there now, and not just amongst the convention center.
Is there a fee?
Yeah, there is a fee if you come and go from Resorts World, but if you're amongst the convention center stops, there's no fee.
Oh. Now, do they do, I don't know what it's called anymore, but do they have anything on Friday for the public, like a SEMA Ignited or SEMA World or something?
Yeah, they have the full Friday experience. So obviously we can have outside folks coming in to check it out, as well as I think they called it SEMA Fest this year.
SEMA Fest, okay.
Yeah, they had a big concert.
You know, that's cool because I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions for people because I'll have people call me up like, hey, you going to SEMA? Can you get me tickets? I'm like, that doesn't work that way.
No.
It's literally a trade show. It's not even a car show. It's a trade show with hundreds of vendors and thousands of cars. And you're just there to see what kind of goods they're coming out with, you know, what they're displaying, the future of this, the future of that. Did you see that Tesla truck, the Cybertruck that looked all transformery?
There were so many Cybertrucks. I think that was the popular thing this year.
Oh, yeah. Every year there's like something, right?
Yep.
I think there was like probably 50 or 100 C8s when Corvette launched the C8, but there were Cybertrucks everywhere. What?
It was everywhere.
Were you able to meet anybody?
Yeah, I was able to meet Mike Finnegan from Motor Trend Roadkill, Faster with Finnegan. He's on YouTube too, Finnegan's Garage. He's a really cool dude.
So he didn't have like handlers or anything around him. They just kind of, it's like Barrett Jackson, right? For the most part, unless they're doing like a special session, people just kind of wandering around.
Actually, we did meet him at a booth that his vehicle was at. They were doing an autograph and picture session then.
Were you able to kind of get out and check out Vegas?
Because we were there all week, there was a couple times that we actually left around like 1 or 2 and went back to the hotel, took a nap,
right.
and then went out. A couple nights we ended up having dinner at like 8 o'clock at night with some friends. We went to, the Secret Pizza place in the Cosmopolitan, which was like our normal staple we go to when we go to Vegas. And then I've never had it before, but Din Tung Fung or something like that, a dumpling place in the Aria. It was really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't even think I've ever heard of the Secret Pizza place. There's so many places to eat there. You know,
so many.
It's and then that's just on the strip, right? There's so many places off the strip to eat too.
Yes, if you want really good Asian food, you have to go off the strip to Chinatown.
Yeah, I wasn't joking when I was chatting with coworkers. There's a Fo Kim Long, They like to play with the names out there, but there's a
Yes.
Folkham Long Vegas, which has a pretty good pho.
Yeah, we had sushi one night off the strip, and then curry we ended up doing twice because it was so good.
So how would you summarize your SEMA experience in having a vehicle in SEMA?
It was excellent. Again, the spot was kind of a bummer, but the fact that I can say I have a SEMA car now is
Yep.
freaking amazing. We probably will eventually do it again. It might be with my husband's car in a few years. It's definitely not something that we can afford on a yearly basis.
Explain that a little bit.
Like let's say the car show itself, there's quite a substantial fee to have your car featured. Sometimes the sponsor does not cover it, so you have to cover it yourself. And then obviously you have to have a hotel for a week. We were there from Saturday to Saturday. Thankfully, we happened to have 4 comp nights at the Luxor, so that helped
Nice.
out.
And for your featured spot, do you mind answering, how much was that, and did the sponsor cover it, or did you guys have to come out of pocket?
We had to come out of pocket. It was about $500, $499, I think was the exact number. That was just to be in a featured spot, and I think a booth spot is even more than that.
Right. So for the listeners, I don't think that number's changed then, because I remember it being $500 or something like that too. So what happens is, whether Nikki pays for it or the vendor pays for it, unless this has changed, you're still not even guaranteed a spot. So they have to say, hey, we want these 3, 4, 5 vehicles, and they submit it to SEMA people, and SEMA has a review and say, okay, yes, 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 no, yes, no, yes.
Yep, exactly. That was the nerve-wracking part, is waiting for the approval.
Did you find that when you're searching for someone, or unless, did they come to you, or did you kind of come to them about being one of their feature vehicles? Whose feature vehicle were you?
So I was featured with Muto, which is the company that provides the printers for vinyl, the plotters, and everything like that. It was helped by a friend of mine through Rap Sesh and Vinyl Vixen
Good deal.
to get a design and get the film sponsored by Muto. We started this process, I think it was in July or August, to get a designer and get the bid out there and everything like that.
That's the last minute, technically.
Yeah.
So then you submit it. So once you got that done, were you still looking for other people to partner up with along the way? Not necessarily you're like, hey, I'm gonna try to be in SEMA, I'd like to have your wheels or for a discount or something. Did you try any of that stuff, or was it just straight Muto?
It was straight Muto.
When I did it and talking to a lot of other people, you reach out to all these cool companies and they're like, oh, okay, you're going to SEMA? It's like, well, I'm trying to get in. Oh, okay, well, let me know when you get in, so. But then once you get in, they're like, oh, okay, you're going to SEMA? We'll stop by our booth and we'll give you a free dash cam, or come over here and we'll give you this. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's just breaking through that layer of acceptance, and then the rest of the build comes. And then you get car parts from people who want to send it to you, but you don't get it till a week before SEMA or something.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember, but I had like that fancy shifter in my car from Acuity Instruments.
Yep.
It was really faded. 4 years in this car, right? It's Arizona. It's going to kill anodization. We actually reached out to them saying, hey, we are going to SEMA. Can you help us out? They did help us out with at least refreshing the shift box, which is great. But I think that was the only company that we really had to reach out to really get the car prettied up, essentially.
Right, because it's a nice car already with just a new wrap, which I'm excited to see in person, and I will see it. I assume I'm going to see it at One Less coming up this weekend, yeah?
Yep, I'll be working it.
Oh, of course. You're doing parking and stuff for Mimi?
Yes, I'll be at the check-in. And for the record, it's not just a new wrap. We did refresh the engine bay, too.
Well, I guess we're going to find out when we take that video.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure.
What'd you do to the engine bay?
We painted the valve cover. We redid the intake. So now we've got some purple powder coating on the intake and intercooler piping. It really brightened up the engine bay.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that in person.
I can't wait to show you.
All right, Nikki, thanks. I will see you this weekend, and congratulations. Becoming a SEMA car is a huge deal, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
I appreciate it, Jay. Thank you.
Bye. So obviously, there's no way I can't touch on the presidential election. I know some of you don't want to hear this. This isn't a told you so. I've never really told you where I voted or where I was going to vote. I only tried to educate you from using the isidewith.com. But there's a few things that's happened since the vote that I just can't sit back and not say anything about. Because there was tons of misinformation leading up to the vote on both sides, I'll add. But there's been a lot of racial things after the vote. So the losing side has dropped the world's biggest race card on the results of this election. Race and identity politics are never going to win an election because basically you're telling the American people that we're all stupid if we don't do this and we don't do that, or we're all racists. And by doing so after the fact, I believe that they're setting our country back even further, claiming that the results are all about race. No one likes black women. That's BS. It's not the black women. People are tired of it. And so you take somebody, well, I can tell you this. Fundamentally, the Harris-Walz campaign failed. They failed in their strategy from day one. They never talked to the people. Unfortunately for Kamala Harris, she doesn't have a good record. You can't go from being the least liked vice president ranked in history to being the number one candidate for presidency. It just doesn't work that way. And the people, here's the problem. The American people aren't stupid. We won't even talk about Tim Walz right now. It has nothing to do with him. Every single time they brought out a musician, every single time an actor, a millionaire, a billionaire came out and said, you need to vote for Kamala Harris, that was one step closer to defeat. Every time they shamed people, well, if you don't vote for this person, you're not black enough. Or black men, why aren't you voting for this lady? Black women, you have to stand up. Black power, why are you voting for this person? I'm voting for them because they're black. I'm voting for them because they're a woman. It's a great idea, but it doesn't do anything. This is the real world. You have to vote for people for their views, their economic plan. How are they going to move the country forward? What would they change about the past, especially if they were responsible for where we're at today? And their failure to go back and say, well, maybe we shouldn't have done it that way. It'll be different moving forward. And here's how. There's tons of strategic reasons why the Democrats did not win this presidential election. And just for the record, I am a moderate left-leaning voter, but I'm also independent. So you sit back and you look at the whole thing. But as far as The View and Sunny Hostin and that shit show, which by the way, I'm glad my wife no longer watches that garbage, for Sunny to get up there and say it's all about race, because that's all she does. She's one of the biggest race-baiting people on television, right across the aisle from Whoopi. But let's break down some statistics here, because the American people deserve to know the truth. Because Sunny will have you believe, and The View will have you believe, most of them, that Kamala Harris didn't win because she's a woman. Kamala Harris didn't win because she's black. Kamala Harris didn't win because she's a black woman. A black woman can lead this country. A woman can lead this country. Just not Kamala. But let's look at the numbers of the population that makes up this country, because they were really quick. They, as in The View, as in Sunny, were really quick to throw up a graphic that said, look, this percentage of white men and white women were voted Trump in. And because of that, we are never going to have a minority president because the white people won't allow it. So let's take a look at this number. As of July of 2023, 335 million people in the United States, and this was a year ago, so you can give or take that by quite a few, given the legal and undocumented people lived in this country a year and a half later. Of those 335 million people, 75.3% of them are white alone. The next closest, Hispanics or Latino, 19.5%. So given the basic math numbers, you're always going to have way more white people in this country and white voters than you're going to have any other race. There will always be more white people voting. Period, point blank, regardless of which way they vote. African American, 13.7%. Asian alone, 6%. And it goes down from there. Two or more races, 3%. American Indian or Native American, 1.3%. So on and so forth. So yeah, you're always going to have more white people voting for any given candidate. But the real number that no one's really talking about on the left, or the people that are upset because we have all these racists. And by the way, Morning Joe and Al Sharpton said that the Latino voters are now the new white supremacists. They're the new racists. They're the new misogynists. But did you know that more Latino women, Latino males, Asian Americans, Indian Americans, every other multi-race voted more for Donald Trump for Republicans than any other time in history. That's a fact. Look it up. So yeah, more people may have voted in those minorities. Latina women, more of them voted for Kamala Harris, but overall the Latino vote, more of them voted for Trump by percentage than any other candidate in history. Same thing with any other race. That should tell you the fundamental issues with this year's election. It's not voter fraud. And was 2020 stolen? Probably. 20 million votes just all of a sudden disappeared because Biden got 81 million votes in 2020. No other president's got more than 70. I think 66, 67, 69 million was the most. Trump would have won. I think he got 74. But that was 4 years ago. It is what it is. But the reason why Kamala Harris and that campaign lost is because they did not meet the American people where they're at. So every time you saw Megan Thee Stallion or Oprah Winfrey telling you that you need to vote for Kamala Harris, you had this fire chief, this union worker, this woman who was personally affected by the policies that had happened over the last 3 years, telling America why you should vote for Donald Trump. Was the economy better 4 years ago? Maybe. Maybe it was all a shell game. But you have to hit people where it matters the most, in their hearts and in their minds. And the Harris campaign continuously failed and didn't do the interviews, maybe weren't allowed to do the interviews. Social media, podcasts, that's where all the news is when the mainstream media is lying to you 90% of the time. They're doing what they're told to do. We'll put it that way. And I'm not a MAGA extremist, but I love his team. Vivek, Tulsi Gabbard, I think RFK wants to make America healthy again. Nobody on the other side of the aisle was talking about any of this stuff. Nobody on the Democratic side was going to college campuses, holding open debates with students and convincing them why they are wrong on their misconceptions, why the lies they've been told are wrong. Nobody was doing that. They should have done that. I'm sure they could have poked holes in a lot of things on the Trump side of them on the ticket, but they didn't. They forgot about the average working everyday American. And that's how you lose an election. But that's what they'll have you believe. So we'll just have to see what the next 4 years holds. I want to thank Nikki Robinson for joining the show. That conversation was brought to you by the Cell Shop, an Arizona-based retailer that tries to be your destination of choice for wireless services, whether Arizona, Washington State, California, Texas, and Florida. They are an authorized AT&T dealer, so visit them at cellshop.us and get connected today. So I looked it up, and this year's SEMA 2024, approximately 160,000 people attended the SEMA show this year, the world's largest, or one of the world's largest automotive aftermarket trade shows. They're estimating over 2,400 brands were there. I could not find how many cars were there. So she's probably right. There's probably 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 cars. It is huge. You heard her say she clocked 12 miles walking around. But that's a really, really big deal. I want to get back real quick to the political thing. Hopefully you guys are still listening. I try not to alienate anybody who's listening to this show because invariably when you pick one side of the aisle, the other side of the aisle gets upset. But I'll say that I think you understand that strategically, the Democratic Party failed the American people. Whether you believe in Kamala Harris, whether you believe that the shadow government that runs the country is making the best decisions, whether you believe that Donald Trump was the best choice, whether you're like many millions of Americans who aren't really that big on Donald Trump, but love the team that he has around him, and you also hate that the mainstream media has been lying to you. That's a fact. Look it up. Kind of like myself. And if you're of the camp, because we had a split house. My mother-in-law and I voted one way. My wife voted another way. We're still fine with each other. We're not getting into any fights. And I think it's sad you hear that families, friendships are broken up over this presidential election. You have to really step back and evaluate. You know, one of the things that at work, they always say that you can't talk about, right? You're not allowed to talk about religion. You're not allowed to talk about politics at work. And it's a reason, because they're very divisive. But if you're one of those people that decided that you can't handle somebody else in your family or in your friend group because of the way that they lean politically, I would challenge you. I'm not going to tell you you're a bad person, because you're not. But I would challenge you to sit back and think hard about that. Because if they don't want to be your friend because of the way you voted, that's on them. But don't be that person. Be human. Be humanitarian. Because the party that lost is doubling down on race politics. they are now calling everybody who didn't vote for them racist. And that should make you wonder what the problem is. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and, you know, he's gay. His best friend is gay. And I know they voted Democrat because they were worried about their rights being taken away. And that was part of the fear mongering, threat to democracy. If this guy gets elected, your rights are taken away. And I said, well, what rights have been taken away? There's no rights that have been taken away. And let's not make the mistake that if you're Democrat and you're part of the LGBTQ plus community, that Republicans can't be LGBTQ plus either. At the same time, don't make the mistake in thinking that Democrats can't be homophobic pieces of shit, because your sexual orientation, your race, and your gender is nonpartisan. There's a lot of bad Republicans. There's a lot of bad Democrats. Do you know why? Because it's a belief system. It's an ideology on how a government should be ran. It has nothing to do with the person standing next to you. So keep that in mind and try not to be part of those statistics where your family does not get along anymore because of your political views, because of your religious views. Please, I'm asking you, do not let that define your relationship with anybody. Got some big events coming up. I had mentioned this talking to Nikki, but our 7th One Less car show and food drive with the United Food Bank is coming up this next Saturday, November 16th. If you're listening and you are in the area, come by. It'd be nice if you could register your vehicle. It's a really light vehicle car show. Pretty much anyone can register because it's all for charity. Cruise, which is our main sponsor this year, is matching those charities dollar for dollar. And we're trying to raise enough to provide 100,000 meals. And that sounds like a lot because it is. But last year we broke a record. We had over 42,000 meals. And I think our previous record was like 18,000 a few years ago. So that's a big event. Also coming up December 1st is the Wright Toyota Toy Drive Bike Build Santa Workshop. Team AZNSX has done that the last few years. If you're listening again, I urge you to come out and do that. And I am also putting together with Wright Honda, it's either going to be a pre-meet for Fuel Fest Toy Drive or the night before Fuel Fest Toy Drive. That's going to be either December 6th or December 7th. December 7th is Fuel Fest. And I will not be showing my car at Fuel Fest because it will be my granddaughter's birthday party. And I can't miss that. I'm one of her favorite people in the world. But I do plan on attending Fuel Fest as a spectator. So that being said, I want to thank Wright Honda and Wright Toyota, Toyota of Huntington Beach, Claremont Toyota, and Gardenia Honda, 4wheelonline.com. Cell Shop Wireless Services, AutoCannon, officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. Patreon, business supporters, Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owensville, Maryland, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida, Pell Construction out of Connelly, Michigan, Beak House Small Home Design out of Ashburn, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan, and Shaping Success with West Tankersley out of Boise, Idaho. I want to thank Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alex Gamita, Drew Bunkley, and Yasu Chiba. If you want to pick up some Hard Parking Podcast gear, go to hardparkingpod.com. Follow me on Instagram at Pfenning. Join the Hard Parking Violations Facebook group. Join the Hard Parking channel on Instagram. Follow me at Hard Parking J on the TikTok machine. I can't grow without you telling the world how great this show is. Let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. And I will talk to you all next week.
Shut up!